I had the opportunity earlier today to speak with Max Wolff, chief economist at Greencrest Capital, and I asked him if these recent job reports are a preview of bigger things to come.
It's certainly a good number, better than we've seen for a while. It probably should be noted, and therefore the enthusiasm might be tempered a bit, that we should be seeing at least 350 to 400,000, because these are the numbers being put up by the recovery to the worst recession we've seen in at least a generation.
Let's talk a little bit about the government. It continues to be a drag on the economy. Do you expect that to continue? And what does that do in terms of a recovery?
So we saw the government contribute a minus 5,000 net new payrolls this month, minus 7,000, minus 5,000 from the federal government, minus 15,000 from the states, and plus 13,000 from the locals. We've seen the public sector in the United States lose a little bit more than 650,000 jobs across this recession. What it actually means is a shrinking public sector, and the problem there is those are middle-class jobs with good benefits and pretty good job security. And the other problem we have is while we are creating new jobs, and that's good, the jobs we are creating tend to have low benefits, low stability, and in many cases be what are called involuntary part-time jobs. So we now have 8 million Americans who are part-time, but are expressing a desire and are actively searching for full-time work. They just can't get it. So it's a good story for sure today from the non-farm payrolls, but it continues to be a good story with all the caveats and all the fears and worries that we've been talking about for a while. Most of those circumstances, unfortunately, haven't fully sorted themselves out or been sorted out by our policy to date.
Well, you're talking about the fears and the worries, and as you well know, there are a lot of people on the sidelines who grew frustrated during this period of time and just kind of said, I'm not even going to look. Is this something that will get them off the couch and say, I'm going to dive back into the market, or are they going to look at the tea leaves and see that these are not those great jobs that they're hoping for, and they're going to stay on the couch?
Well, the bad news is that when people drop out of the labor force, it's very hard to get them back. And we've seen the labor force participation rate decline to a multi-decade lows and kind of stay there. They haven't gone down further, those participation numbers, but they've fallen. And here's the tough news. A, people get out of the habit of working, and B, they become borderline unhireable in many cases. So right now, 37% of America's unemployed have been out of work for 27 weeks or longer. We have a raft of studies, all of which consistently show us the following. If you've been out of work for more than 6 months, you'll be heavily discriminated against in the labor market should you seek to come back. And then, as you pointed out, there's a lot of part-time jobs with no benefits, less likely to pull people back into the labor force. And last but not least, we still haven't seen real wages recover where they were in 2007. So what's pushing people back into the labor force is a little bit of an improvement, and that's the really good news. And then maybe a little more dark, and so from a social perspective, we are seeing the unemployment insurance and the social benefits be taken away from folks who have literally exhausted the period of time they're allowed to have those benefits, which will force some people back into the labor force. But it's a little bit more push than pull, unfortunately, even up through today's good June non-farm payroll number.
Max, what sector or industry are you looking at? I mean, what is the number one thing that you look at in terms of picking up steam where you say, okay, maybe we're on the way to a recovery?
What I'm looking for and still haven't found is I'd like to see a little more manufacturing jobs. So we had a net non-farm payroll increase of 195,000 here in the U.S. 194,000 were service jobs. That's a big category with a lot of diversity in it, but I'd like to see a little broader. I'd like to see a little more manufacturing. I'd like to see even better numbers from construction, although those have improved.